Well, this is kind of an unusual sight when you see the tow vehicle actually on the trailer being towed. And I got quite a story to go along with this. But anyways, I'll show you what transpired on my most recent trip down to southern Ontario from Alberta. So right now I'm in the middle of repairing a trailer tire, which is another one of the many things that has gone wrong in the last, say, 3 or 4 weeks. Still just a flat tire, and it didn't go flat until I was home here in the driveway. So, and here's another problem. Had an axle bearing pile up on this, and I didn't hear anything, I didn't see anything, I didn't smell anything, and eventually it got hot enough, it made the rim hot enough that it blew the tire. You can see that I found this hubcap in the ditch beside the van when I came to a stop. So yeah, the rim's kind of charred. That white stuff on it is from my fire extinguisher. And here is the tire. The tire actually caught fire, as you can see right here, where it's all burned. And the rim must have been, it wasn't red hot, but it was pretty hot, because when I started throwing water on it after I emptied my fire extinguisher on it, which didn't really have a whole lot of effect on it, the water was just turning into steam instantly as soon as it hit the wheel. And after scrounging up almost all the water I had, I managed to get the fire out. If that tire fire had taken off and gotten out of hand, the van wouldn't be here. It would have burnt right on the side of the highway, and possibly the Volkswagen with it. And in the Schmozzle, I broke the cover for my Continental kit, but it's a minor detail. The hitch on the trailer actually put this crack in it here, this hole, and things just progressed from there. So, today, I've rearranged things in the shop here, moved the old truck forward so I can get the tire changer mounted in the receiver hitch, because the one on the van is a little too high to work with right now, and I don't really feel like pulling on a tire bar to fix a tire when this thing's sitting on a jack. So this is what we're doing here. So I don't know where I picked this screw up. There he is. If you listen close, you can hear it hissing. I'm glad that this tire didn't actually go flat until about 6 days after, 5 or 6 days after I got home, because I may have had another catastrophe on the highway had it gone flat out in the middle of nowhere, and I may have not noticed it, because trailer tires are kind of hard to tell when they go flat. You can't really see them that well, and you can't really feel it that well. But anyways, we're going to change this tire. No, we're not going to change it. We're going to take it off and fix the screw hole. So there, that's got that patched. That is where a self-tapping screw found its way, and yes, it did. It screwed itself into that tire. It's got a little bit of wear on the end, so at least I don't think I picked it up in my driveway with that much wear on the end of it. God only knows where I picked it up, but thing about tandems, the front tire flips the nail or whatever up on end, and then the second tire comes over top of it, and wham, there you go. You got a hole in your tire. Anyways, that's got that one fixed for now. That other inflator won't work without the valve stem in it. And the valve core, rather. It appears this one won't either. So, to put the core in, it's easier to bead a tire up without the valve core in it, because the valve core restricts the airflow, and it doesn't hit it hard enough. Let's see what happens. Oh, we're going to get it. Here we go. Well, there's the start of fixing all the stuff that I wrecked while I was away. And I don't think I can fix that other tire. I'm pretty sure it's beyond that, but I'm going to see if I got road hazard coverage on that from the dealer, and maybe get it replaced that way. Anyways, it's a start. Well, my new friend Holly came over with her four-wheel drive Dodge pickup and moved the trailer around for me to unload the camper off the trailer. And she steered the van into position, and then she backed the trailer into position, and all in all, I would say that's a perfect parking job. Good job, Holly. Next thing we're going to do, we're going to jack up the back of the van and see how much damage we did to that axle, and see if we can fix it. So I got some plywood in place to roll the big jack out, and we'll get started. Yeah, obviously this bearing, as I suspected, is the source of all the trouble. So we're going to go under and pull this axle out and see if there's anything left there to fix. Well, I got the axle out, and I had to pound the end of the axle tube was all splayed out, and I had to pound it to get the backing plate off to make sure that that was the end of the axle tube, and yeah, it is, and it's ruined. Looks like the bearing has spun in it. I don't know where all the pieces from the bearing went, but they're not. There's some stuff on the axle, and there's a little piece there, another little piece there, and so I'm going to throw the inspection cover back on the back of the differential housing, and I'm going to have to go shopping for another unit, because this one is buggered. bit off balance there. Hi, Arlene.
How you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
I thought you were your mom for a minute there until I looked.
It's cool. I think our voice is very similar.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Okay, there you have it. The broken rear end is now out on the ground, waiting for the new one to be shipped from Edmonton. It should head out tomorrow. And meantime, I got to gather some more parts. I had to cut all those U-bolts up with a cutting torch because I couldn't get them to unbolt and unnut them. Get those big springs off. And I'm thinking of, I wouldn't mind actually changing those springs out and putting some heavier springs in. But I'll have to look into that, see what I think when I look at the price. Okay, I'm just about ready to slide that differential in under there and wrap up the U-bolts and get her done. Well, there's the next rear end swap that I got to do there. It's a 9-inch Ford, and it's a limited slip unit, 373 gears, and I bought that, and it's going to go in this truck. It should be a fairly easy swap because that rear end was actually installed in a 53 Ford pickup, and yeah, we'll put it in there to replace that 57 Pontiac unit that's in there. And anyways, I've been trying to beat the snow on this rear end swap in the van, and I haven't been filming that much because I was trying to beat the snow. But anyways, it's in. I still got some more work to do yet. I got to put the overload springs back in after I retorqued those U-bolts. They've got to be retorqued after I drive it a bit. So I'm going to drive it around town a bit and then come back in, pull the wheels off, and retorque those, and then reinstall those big overload springs that go on there. The only reason I can't put them on now because then I can't get on the nuts to retorque the U-bolts. So anyway, it's coming along. I did not beat the snow, but it's not too bad. There's the old carcass of the old one. And yeah, I put all new brakes on it, new drums, new wheel cylinders. I had to replace the parking brake cables because the other one on the other side got roasted in the fire. And it's coming along. Oh, I'm getting too old for this. Maybe. Okay. I had to change the rear U-joint and used one conversion U-joint back here because the 94 rear end takes a bigger U-joint than the 90 drive shaft, so they had an offset U-joint that was wider one way. It's a special conversion unit, and done by the good friends at Standens, and they put a new one in the front as well. Okay, yeah, they put a new one in the front as well as said straightened and balanced the drive shaft, which I don't think it needed to be straightened, but anyways, that's done for a price. Anyways, just thought I'd give you an update on how this was coming along. I've been spending a lot of time underneath here. Gonna watch out for those screws that hold the flooring down up in the camper. You don't want to get whack one of those in the head. That would hurt. I'm just getting these new U-bolts ready to reconnect the overload springs to the main leaf. And man, it really needs them. It's dragging its butt without them. I had to take it and drive it for a little bit yesterday and let the new U-bolts settle in and then retorque them. And if I put the overload springs on first before I did that, then I can't get on the nuts to retorque the U-bolts. So that's why I ended up taking it for a drive, not very far. And lo and behold, I blew another tire. My spare is now, looks like a bunch of rags kind of, but so now I gotta buy 2 new tires. But such is life. Never just rains, it pours. I put this spare tire on the right rear to take the van for a drive to get the U-bolts, the new U-bolts and everything to settle in, and then so I could retorque them. And this tire was basically, well, I wouldn't call it a new tire, but it had no miles on it. You can see it still has the stenciling on it, and there is what's left of the label. Yeah, I think this might have been the original spare that came with this van when it was brand new. When the van was brand new. And I pumped it up to 35 pounds, which is the maximum rating for this tire. And I made it about 3 or 4 kilometers, and it all flew to hell. So this is a good example of what happens when you, with old tires. Even though this tire only has about 3 or 4 kilometers on it, the fact that it was old, the air basically just fell out of it. It didn't go boom, it went and flop, flop, flop. That was it. So there it was on the side of the road again with another flat tire. So anyways, we're going to get rid of that today. Pick up 2 brand new Michelins at Phil's today. Get them mounted. Put them on the back of the van. And then I can turn it around and do just regular servicing. Oil change, grease job. And it should be ready for next season after this. So, pitter patter, let's get at her. Put 2 brand new tires and freshly painted wheels on there. Tires are expensive these days. Those were $510 for the pair on the back. But, oh well, such is life. You want to drive, you gotta pay. And I'm going to put the spare, which was the left rear. It's going to go on the rack on the back. I have to make the bolts longer mounting bolts on it here, because that tire is actually wider than the original spare was, and the short bolts won't work. So you change one thing, you got to change a bunch of things. But oh well, we're almost done here. Well, I made a couple of studs out of the one of the old U-bolts, and that gives me some extra length there. Gives me about another 3/4 of an inch or so, maybe 5/8. But that should make that allow that tire, that chubby tire, to get on there and get the nuts on it. Well, that's got that spare mounted, and got lots of extra bolt hanging off there now. I might replace those with a couple of giant carriage bolts that are coated so they won't rust. These are not rust resistant hardware, so. And I think I'm going to have to replace the Continental kit that covers the spare. The other one, the stainless steel band on the other one is in good condition, but the centerpiece got damaged in transit on the way home, and actually got damaged by the jack on the front of the trailer in a tight turn. And then once it got cracked, it just disintegrated, so it was old. I presume that's why it fell apart, because it was old. That's why the spare fell apart too. But anyway, that's got it all back together again. I hiked up the Hellwig springs a little tighter this time. I do think the ass end will drop down and settle in a little bit once I drive it, but picked it up a little bit in the back, so that's always good. Nothing worse than dragging your back bumper on the ground. Anyways, that's all I got for now.